Hello, it's Rebecca here. I wanted to do another year in review on my fountain pen hobby for 2022, this time relating to pens and pen brands. So as you know, I keep quite an extensive record of pens I ink, the inks I put in them, what I've purchased, what I've swatched over the course of the year. So I pulled my statistics today and I found that the pen brands I used the most in 2022 were Platinum at 9 times, Franklin Christoph at 9 times, Leonardo at 7 times, and then I used Benu, Canwright, and Faber-Castell each 5 times. So the Platinum pen I used the most in 2022 was my celluloid tortoise with cat hair on it. And this is one I had to send away and get the feed repaired because I snapped the feed while cleaning it. But this is a Platinum 3776 celluloid tortoise with a medium nib that has been just slightly stubbified by Jack Hernandez. It's not inked, so I'm not going to do a writing sample with it, but it is my most used pen of the year at 5 times. It is tied with, for most used 5 times this year, the Canwright Heritage in the Brown Marble Swirl, which is a plastic pen as opposed to a beautiful celluloid pen. This is my most expensive pen, is my celluloid pen. This is one of my cheaper pens. And it was used 5 times because of the spectacular double broad Architect nib on it. I don't know if you can see that Architect there under my finger or above my finger. But that I used 5 times. Those 2 pens I used 5 times each. And then a 3-way tie for I used them 4 times this year are, oh, where did you go? Where is my hexo? Where is my hexo? Oh, it's in my to be cleaned pile, which is downstairs. So I'll pull a substitute. 4 times my Faber-Castell Hexo in Rose, which is downstairs in the to be cleaned pile in the kitchen. But this is a bronze version of the same pen. It looks identical except for that rose one is a pale pink. My Franklin Christoph Model 45 and the Wonder Pens material. Where is it? Oh, it's in my... You'd think I'd be more prepared for this. I'm not prepared. Franklin Christoph Wonder Pens material Model 45 with the 18 karat gold hair, smudge, everything on it. With the 18 karat gold medium stub nib. That I used 4 times. 14. Oh, that would be crazy. 4 times. And the other one I used 4 times was my Benu Talisman in Mandrake. The first time it was just a broad nib, but now it is a broad Architect because I sent it away for adjustment. Oh, there goes the cat. Let's just replace her. So 6 most used pens. 6, I missed one. 1, 2, Faber-Castell Hexo and Rose, Wonder Pens, Benu Talisman. No, the 5 most used pens of 2022 for me. Although it was the pink one, not the rose one, not the bronze one, but same pen. Then unique pens used. So the number of pens I used individually this year, I used 49 of my pens this year. I put those back in the wrong order. Oh well. I used 49 different pens over the course of this year. That's a lot of pens. That's a lot of utilization of my collection. The question is, how many pens do I have? Let's look that up. I have bought, over the course of my collecting, 114 pens, fountain pens. I do not own 114 pens. I have given a few away, quite a few away, and one got garbaged because it was well, you know why a pen gets garbaged. It didn't write. It was a piece of crap. But of my pens, I used 49, which is quite a good amount. A decent amount of pen usage in 2022. This is just over the last year. I used 49 different pens, some of which you can see from earlier, I used multiple times. And then the next thing is, how many pens did I acquire in 2022? Well, that number is 15. I started in January with a bunch of buying that happened in December, and pens started arriving in January. For example, my Ferris wheel press carousel with a medium size 5 steel nib, cartridge converter pen, Canadian company. This is in the colorway French Vanilla. Quite a nice little pen. Nothing fancy, just a nice little pen. Next up, I got my first Leonardo, the blue Hawaii model. Absolutely stunning pen. I think they call this spaghetti resin, if I'm remembering correctly. It has an extremely smooth steel medium nib coated in rose gold. Very nice writer. I've had this inked twice, both times with blues that were matched it very well. Then I got an Opus 88 in the black shell, mother of pearl barrel. I call it black shell because it's black and shell, but the shell parts of the body are mother of pearl. And I sent that away for work on the nib and got it stubbified, and I've had this inked up twice this year. Next up is my Canwrite Heritage in the brown marble swirl. That's that plastic pen you saw earlier. The reason I keep this inked so often is because of that spectacular double broad architect nib. And I've had 5 different inks in this pen. Califolio Canal, Robert Oster Clay Red, Sailor Ink Studio 273, Pilot Iroshizuku Idaho, and Jerbon Lidate. So I've had a lot of fun with this pen. Next up is the Bennu Talisman with the Jack Hernandez Architect nib. I've had this inked 4 times. Diamine Soft Mint was a perfect match to the body, to the tips. Diamine Purple Dream matched the sparkly bits, the dark bits between the sparkle. Pannonia Bellaton Keck didn't match anything. It was just a fun, super shady ink with the Architect nib. And Van Diemen's Black Tongue Spider Orchid kind of matched this area. So I've had fun finding inks to match the pen. Still in January, I ordered and received in February this glorious piece. This is a Leonardo pen. It's a Momento Zero like the blue Hawaii was. This one Tom bought for me because I fell in love with it, and I was telling him about how pretty it was, and he said, oh, just get it. So he basically bought it for me. This was a limited edition through Pen Chalet. Let's see. Mine is number 31 out of 100 pieces, and this is in the Bohemian Twilight Resin cast by Jonathan Brooks. It's also a medium. I tend to go for medium unless I have a reason to choose a wider or narrower nib. Medium is my default nib. And yeah, I have to have a reason to choose a different nib than a medium. This is my Osprey Milano in the rose quartz color. And I got this with a medium nib, and then I purchased separately a broad architect and a double broad architect. Right now it has the broad architect nib in it. It's a very nice nib. And it will probably remain living in this pen. I like an architect nib. The double broad was a bit too double broad for me, so I'm sticking with the broad. And you can see I've had it inked 3 times this year since I got it, and I've stuck with kind of the color palette of the pen. First I had Birmingham Pen Company Salmon Hors d'oeuvre, then Van Diemen's Summer Tassie Salmon, then Urban Coral de Tropique, Tropical Coral. Next was one I got in April. I ordered it in January or February. I remember that. It took forever to come. This is my Leonardo Momento Zero in Giada or Jade with yellow gold accents and a medium nib. And I've had it inked twice, but that's kind of underselling this pen. This pen was inked solidly, first with Pannonia Lichen, then with Yoseka Stationery Tang Me See Blue. This was inked solid for about 8 months this year. So I just refilled within those 2 inks and kept writing with this pen. I absolutely love the color. It's a really pretty pen and goes with so many of my green inks. I needed a home for green inks because I didn't own a green pen. And that one did the trick. It goes with so many of them. Next up was my second Faber-Castell Hexo. This is the bronze that you saw earlier. This one has a fine steel nib. It's a very nice nib. Not exceptional because it's a bit dry for my taste, but it is a good nib. I have it inked up with Inkabara number 246 Earth, which is a good match. Not a perfect match, but a good match to the pen body. A nice pen. My second Faber-Castell Hexo. I really like my first so much that I got a second. Then I picked up a Pelican Twist in December. Actually, the Hexo came in December as well. I went from April to December to November without buying any pens. And then November and December, I ordered like crazy. This is another Pelican Twist. I have 4 of these. I've had 5. I gave one away. I love my taupe one so much, and my orange one and my green one, that when I saw this Shine Mystic, the purple, had come back into stock at Jet Pens, I jumped on it because it's shiny purple. It's a gorgeous color. So I have that inked with Kaweco Summer Purple right now. Next up is my first pen from China. This is a Kaigaloo 316 in lavender and black. It's a bit heavy. The nib is fine, and it's a decent nib. It's a nice smooth writer. I have it inked with Robert Oster Claret, which I should write down. This is... The problem with Robert Oster Claret is it oxidizes in the nib. You can see the first 3 letters of Robert are very oxidized. 2022. They're almost black, whereas the rest is the claret color. So that's that one. Let me just blot this before I turn the page. Next up is my Jinhao 80 in the ivory plastic. This is with the gold toned hardware. This is a nice pen with a fine steel nib. It is a cartridge converter pen, and the nib is a little dry. I'm going to have to work on it, but it's a decent nib. I was expecting finer nibs for an Asian fine. Usually Asian nibs are quite a bit thinner and finer than German nibs or European nibs. So I was expecting a sharper, more scratchy nib, being that it was an Asian fine, but no, quite a decent nib, bigger than I expected. So a pleasant writing experience. I should actually write what I have in there too. This is Colorverse. Tapyong Seongdae. And that was inked in December of this year. Next up is another Jinhao 80. I bought two at the same time. Man, I just inked these pens and did not write them in my book. This is inked with a very crusty ink. Let's see if I can get a shot of that by moving the light. It is growing nib crusties and having nib creep like crazy. This is Blackstone Brown Baronia. So, Blackstone Brown Baronia. And like I said, it nib creeps like crazy. It is a scented ink, and I think it smells delicious. This is an even nicer nib than the ivory one, although it might be that the ink is scented. There's a little oil in there, so it could be that the smoothness and wetness is more due to the ink than to the pen. Next up is a really exceptionally pretty pen. This is a Kaigaloo 316A, and it has rose gold trim, and this body is called Saffron, and it is gorgeous. Let's see if I can get more light in here. Nope, let's try that way. The body is just stunning. Rose gold coated nib. Now I ordered a medium, but as you can see from the printing on this page, that is an extremely broad medium. I compared it to my TWSBI broad, which I have inked right now, and this is about equivalent to a double broad. So a very broad medium nib, very, very wet. Lays down this normally shading ink with no shading whatsoever, but 100% halo everywhere. So an extremely, extremely wet, broad writer. It's a lovely pen. I liked it so much, and I think it's so pretty that I have ordered another one with a fine nib, because this is not a practical nib. The only place I can use it is in my journal. I can't use it in my Some Lines a Day book or in my Hobonichi Cousin because the grid lines are too small for this nib. So I won't be doing much journaling next year because I'll be moving to the Hobonichi Cousin and using the daily pages instead of a 7mm lined rule. I'll be using the 3.7mm squared rule, and that means that nib won't get any work. That pen will hardly be used at all next year, and I want to be able to use such a pretty pen body. So yeah, I have another one coming. Also, it's like a $30 pen, Canadian. So, including shipping. For that price, yes, I'm getting another. It's worth it for me, or to me. And then the last pen I acquired this year is a Platinum Meteor. Platinum makes some of my favorite pens. Like I said, I used Platinum pens 9 times this year. One of those times was with this brand new Platinum Meteor. It's a small pen cartridge converter, little nib. Its converter is not a rotational type. You don't screw it. You have to put your nail on this little guy. I just shot myself with ink. And push to move the ink. So let me just lay that down and bring in a paper towel. That was fun. Yes, I made a mess. It happens. But it's a weird little converter. Like you literally push this part down and the rest stays stable. This doesn't turn at all. Plastic pen, cheap plastic. It feels like it would be brittle plastic. And honestly, the nib on this one was not aligned very well. And this is more what I thought an Asian fine nib would feel like. This feels like a Japanese fine nib. It's very fine. It's a bit scratchy. I've done some work on it. I've got the tines a little more aligned than they were initially, but there's still work to do on it. They aren't fully aligned yet. And I have 2 more coming in this Platinum Meteor because I could not resist the colors. So this one's called Vanilla Yellow. I don't know where they get yellow, but it is vanilla. I have 2 more coming called Plum Wine and Cherry Powder, and I'm looking forward to those. It's inked with Inkabara Brown Gray, my second time using that ink this year. So this was a really good year for pens for me. The previous year, in 2021, I acquired 3 pens in the whole year. 2 in January, 1 in February, and then none for the rest of the year. So I was due to have a bit of a spend. It had been a while. So yes, my information. Pen brands used the most: Platinum, Franklin Christoph, Leonardo, then Benu, Kenwright, and Faber-Castell. Most popularly used pens, individual pens. 2 of them used 5 times, 3 of them used 4 times. Unique pens used was 49 different pens, and pens acquired was 15. There's a plus here because I do have a few more coming from China via AliExpress, but I don't think they'll get here this year. 2 of them say they will get here December 28th. I do not trust Canada Post to get them here on that timing. I just don't. I think they'll arrive in January. So, yeah, that's my year in pens, or year in fountain pens. And I hope this was vaguely interesting somehow. And yeah, have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.